watching Cowboys Game Day on TXA21.
Hello, happy holidays, and welcome to the Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana, where tonight the Dallas Cowboys take on the undefeated New Orleans Saints in a Saturday night football showdown. Hello, everyone. I'm Babe Lofberg. Thank you for joining us tonight for our 1-hour Cowboys pregame show. We're going to hear from Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones in just a moment on the status of head coach Wade Phillips. All right, this has been the toughest ticket anywhere in the NFL season this year. You go to all the retail sites, StubHub and the rest of them, and this has been the most expensive and the toughest ticket to get of any NFL game this season. This place is fired up for a little football. Joining me is CBS11 Steve Dennis. And Steve, we did a little reconnaissance mission to get a pulse for the town, get a feel for what's going on out there.
Just for our job purposes.
Just for job. We were on Bourbon Street last night, keeping late hours, and this town is fired up.
Who dat? Yeah, I mean, the first 400 times I heard it, I thought it was neat. but man, and that's the way every conversation goes here now. Now, there's a lot of Cowboys fans here, too, and they're all trying to get braggadocious, and all these Saints people say to them is, who dat? That's it. They're yelling, we're going to beat you. Who dat? Just too much of it. But, yeah, babe, I've been here for a BCS championship game, Final Four, Sugar Bowl. This has a bigger feel to me last night and today than all of those. I mean, it's just crazy down here. It's playoff atmosphere for this team already.
Well, and this team is 13-0, visions of a 16-0 undefeated season dancing in their head. I know everybody's wondering DeMarcus Ware, so how about an update on DeMarcus Ware's status?
It looks like DeMarcus Ware is good to go. We didn't get the definitive game time word that he's in, but Jim Maurer, head trainer of the Cowboys, said yesterday that he's good. They just wanted to make sure that today remained that way, and we haven't heard anything detrimental to that. So, and DeMarcus told some fans, by the way, so take that to the bank, that I'm going to play. But it looks like DeMarcus Ware's good to go, which is quite shocking, huh?
I like that. DeMarcus told some fans.
Yeah.
But
and all the fans are telling their friends, DeMarcus told me.
Yeah, that's very good. All right, hey, we're joined here tonight, not in New Orleans, but back in our CBS11 and TXA21 studios by Randy White and Gina Miller. Hello, guys.
Hey, Babe. Hey, Steve. And I love that they're calling it reconnaissance work. That's what it's called these days when you go out drinking on Bourbon Street. Reconnaissance. That's the official term.
We're good at it.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I know. We're all pretty good at it, quite honestly. But, you know, Steve mentioned the Who Dat song. I go to New Orleans all the time. I hear the Who Dat going to beat them Saints. You liked hearing it when you would play down there. You loved it.
Hey, in the pregame, first time I ever played in New Orleans, the who dat thing was, I was sitting down there going, who dat think they're going to be? I thought that was pretty cool, though, really.
You like it?
Yeah, I liked it.
Then you had to refocus a little bit.
Yeah, then we went out there and beat them, yeah.
I can tell you, I've got some people there on the field in New Orleans, and from what I'm hearing from them, guys, that it is bigger than a BCS championship game, bigger than the Sugar Bowl, just like you said, Steve. I mean, just amazing atmosphere, tough ticket to get. I know some people who did get some tickets, and let me just say, they paid a pretty penny, guys.
Yes, they did. Apparently, the highest seat, not in terms of price, but in terms of geographically highest seat in the building, going for $350 for tonight's game. So yeah, you got to have a little money to attend it. All right, the Dallas Cowboys players arrived here just a short time ago to the Louisiana Superdome. Now we are just over an hour away from kickoff as the Cowboys look to end a 2-game losing streak and retain control of their playoff fate. Now, if the Cowboys win out, they are assured of a spot in the postseason and the NFC East title. But first, the first game of their 3-game stretch will undoubtedly be the toughest. And while the Cowboys lead the all-time series against the Saints, the Big Easy, that hasn't been easy for the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas has only 2 wins in 8 tries against the Saints in the Superdome. The Saints have reeled off 5 straight wins against the Cowboys. That dates back to 1994. Now the Cowboys trying to snap a 2-game losing streak, and to do that, they'll have to beat a Saints team that has marched to a perfect 13-0 start.
There's no better momentum swing for this football team than to beat a undefeated Super Bowl champs, New Orleans Saints.
They won the Super Bowl?
I mean, it's, might as well crown them, right? They're undefeated. It's December. We don't have a chance. So,
as you can tell, they play really, really well at home, and a byproduct of that is, you know, their fans and the people there, and they do a good job. And you have to try and come out early in the game and do good things to quiet them down and to try and take the crowd out of the game, and we'll try and do that.
All right, and Steve, I see this New Orleans Saints team, and I do see a beatable team that hasn't been beaten yet. So can the Cowboys beat them tonight?
Well, I see kind of the opposite. I mean, these two have played 22 times. Half of them have been by 2 touchdowns or more. And these fans here, there's an arrogance, and you're talking about they're beatable. Their last 2 games they only won by 3.
Right.
But they're home with this. I mean, the Cowboys are up against it, man. I feel like they're standing on a track and a big train's coming, and somebody's got to do something.
Yeah, you know what the big train is? That Saints offense.
That's right.
Drew Brees is the conductor. Hey, you look at it though, last year, the Saints finished 8-8. They're 0-5 in games decided by 3 points. As you mentioned, this year, the last 2 weeks, they win by 3 in both those games. Against Washington, Sean Sweeza misses a 23-yard field goal that's going to end it. And you know when things are going your way? When you throw an interception, as Drew Brees did, and Robert Meacham steals the ball from the Washington defender, and he goes in for a 44-yard touchdown. Think about that for a minute. You throw an interception on the same play you score a touchdown. The ball's bouncing your way.
Yeah, that's good. and that's what they sense here, and that's what we're talking about. They feel like the Cowboys are the last hurdle to their undefeated season. So that's why the mood here is such. They figure if they can beat America's team and enjoy doing it, then the last 2 will be easy.
All right, Randy White, you've been on some really good football teams. You've been on teams that get on a roll. I think the Saints have this feeling of invincibility right now. What do you think?
Well, I'm sure they do, babe. I've played on teams where we go out and we go into a football game. You just knew you were going to win the football game. You have that type of confidence, and that grows from winning. I mean, they've won, and they go out there on the field. They're expecting to win. Now, does that mean that Dallas can't beat them tonight? This isn't pee-wee football where you have a lopsided team playing against another one. These guys are professional football players, and if Dallas Cowboys go out there and play the guy in a game they're capable of playing, hey, they can win this game tonight.
We've been saying that all year. If they can play the kind of game they're capable of playing, we just haven't seen it. Yeah. Haven't seen it too much, but we will see when we come back here on our special hour-long edition of Cowboys Game Day. We'll see more of those fabulous pregame festivities in New Orleans because we are just getting started. A lot coming up. We're going to hear from Cowboys owner Jerry Jones, Steve Dennis, Babe Loffenberg, Bill Jones even joins us on set. All that and much more still ahead.
We are back on our Cowboys Game Day show here on TXA21, live from New Orleans in the Superdome. Who dat says it's going to beat them Saints? Well, Cowboy fans are hoping it's the 8-5 Dallas Cowboys, and of course, it's a 13-0 New Orleans Saints here that are going to be going against. All right, for Rich Beam, May 2nd, 2009 will forever be a day that will live in infamy. It was on that day that Beam was paralyzed when the Cowboys practice bubble collapsed. Now, Rich and his wife, Michelle, already the proud parents of 2 young boys, welcomed a baby girl into the world just 6 weeks previous. Now, raising 3 young children would be challenge enough for any family, but the Beams were taking on the challenge of a lifetime.
The entire structure is down.
Oh my God! Some of the people were trapped.
Right under here. We have 10, 12 rescue crews.
Go ahead, get out of here now.
I'm seeing another ambulance.
Get out of there, fellas, come on.
A couple of people involved in this today. Rich Beam has a spine injury.
The accident was a little more than 6 months ago. Does it feel like it happened yesterday, or does it feel like a lifetime ago?
Yesterday. Still seems like it was. I mean, I could tell you everything. I mean, everything about it. I mean, I remember the building shaking, and then my first reaction being, I gotta get out of this place. Seeing the roof all of a sudden collapse, I had to get. I have to get out of here. You know. Now, hindsight, I was wrong place, wrong time.
Did you know immediately how seriously you were injured?
Yes. First, I thought the first thing kind of that I thought. First of all, I thought I was dead. I mean, that was the first thing I thought. I thought I was laying there and that was going to be it, kind of at first. And then all of a sudden, you hear some people's voices, stuff like that.
Hey, is anybody under there?
I couldn't feel anything moving from down. I could feel my legs were there, but nothing was moving, so I knew something was horribly wrong. And that's, you know, it's when I asked, I need to call my wife.
I'll never forget that phone call. I actually got the phone call from him, and it was, I could just hear it in his voice. He was in so much pain.
That part's the worst part.
Which part?
The actual just laying there in the grass and not being able to do anything.
My instinct just kicked in, just get the kids and get to the hospital. We'll figure it out.
And when you were lying on the ground there, did those kids flash through your mind when you said, I may not make it?
First thing. Yep. Yep. All 3 kids and the wife.
While in the hospital, Beam said he had recurring dreams where he was able to walk, only to wake up to realize that they were merely dreams. It was the thought of being home with his family that pushed him through a painful rehabilitation process. And it was a family that was now meeting a challenge of their own.
It was hard not to be part of what I was used to, of being there in the morning with the boys.
You know, they just counted down the days till he came home.
And it wasn't like you didn't have anything else going on, right? 2-month-old girl at home.
Yeah, that was a bit of a challenge.
I would imagine.
You just do it. You really don't have a choice. You still have to get up in the morning. I still had 3 kids to get ready.
Her husband made a choice that he would get out of the rehabilitation center as quickly as possible.
They told me 6 to 8, I got out of there in 4, so that was, you know, exactly what I wanted to happen, you know. Work hard and get out of there.
Beam wanted to get out of there so he could return here, the Cowboys practice facility at Valley Ranch, and his job in the Cowboys scouting department. Not many people would be eager to go back to the place where they were so seriously injured. But what was once merely his job was now his salvation.
Was that part of the rehabilitation process for you, to get back in and start doing what you love to do?
Yeah, definitely. That was the first thing I wanted to do, was get back to, I mean, I wanted to get back to the office only because it was normal. It was back to doing what I had done before the accident happened, and it was back to being just normal again. I mean, that's my first step towards being normal anyway. Nothing's normal anymore.
Beam's rehabilitation was marked by milestones, celebrating his 10-year anniversary.
He was still in the hospital. They gave him
my first release.
It was your first. We had a curfew.
Yeah. And we blew right past that, I think.
We did a little bit.
Now you're around the NFL, Rich. Is there a fine schedule involved there?
No, there was no fine. I think they got their money probably in the end of the day, didn't they?
And his surprise visit to his son's kindergarten graduation.
Oh, he was so fired up to see Dad there.
You should have seen the look on his face.
His friends may call him Rich or Beamer.
Gabe, go.
But a whole bunch of kids call him Coach.
Good job.
You still coach your boys' soccer. How important was that for you to continue that?
Probably more important to me than it was to my son. Only because I wanted to get back out there and do something that I was doing before I got hurt.
Good job, Phil, in the middle.
My son kind of at first was like, didn't want to play soccer because he was already playing myself. I was like, okay, well, the rest of the team wants you to play, so I already told him I'd coach, so you're playing, buddy.
There you go!
Do your children have an understanding of what's happened to Dad?
I think they understand the situation a little bit. Now, do they understand the full situation in terms of that I may not? Probably not.
What have you learned about Rich?
He amazes me every day. He just gets up and he fights through every day. It's just the struggles he goes through. And every morning, people have no idea what he goes through.
Have you had the conversation with yourself, why me?
No. I haven't really had the chance, or I don't really want to feel sorry for myself or anything like that. It's just kind of, it is what it is, and I've got to move on, you know? I mean, I have a wife, and we have 3 kids, so if I start feeling sorry for myself, we're in big trouble.
Players and coaches have been supportive, visiting him in both the hospital and at home. He's also had support from people in high places, including former President George Bush, who invited the Beam family to his Dallas home.
Everybody wanted to see what they could do to help. And, you know, I mean, I had everything from friends from high school, mowing my yard. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. You don't realize sometimes how big people's hearts are sometimes until something like this happens.
Beam may not be fully immersed in the works of Ralph Waldo Emerson, but Emerson could have been thinking of Rich Beam when he wrote, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are small matters compared to what lies within us."
Do you hold out hope that you'll walk again?
Oh yeah, yeah. In fact, I mean, I tell my wife, I tell the kids that all the time. I mean, hey, I'm always holding out hope.
And when you see that story, or you see DeMarcus Ware being carted off in an ambulance in last week's game against San Diego, kind of makes you think Jason Garrett's play calling and Nick Folk's field goal kicking takes a back seat to all of that. All right, Cowboys are hoping that Nick Folk can kick his way out of his current slump. Coming up, find out how Folk is handling the adversity and how a local family may serve as his inspiration. Stay with us. CarMax takes you around the NFC East. Here's a look at the standings. The Cowboys at 8-5 find themselves in second place behind the Philadelphia Eagles. Now the Cowboys need a win tonight to keep the pressure on Philadelphia and to stay a step ahead of the third place New York Giants. All right, and we will stay a step ahead by tossing it back to Gina Miller in our TXA21 studios.
Babe, thank you very much. You know, one of the big stories coming into this week was the status of kicker Nick Folk. He struggled so much lately. Now, we're going to get to something he's done very special in just a moment. But I got to ask you, babe, before we continue, what would you have done with Nick Folk, considering how much he's just been struggling recently?
Yeah, I would have had a new kicker in here, quite honestly, Gina. I would have loved to have found a way to keep Nick Folk on the roster. But I don't think you can look at the rest of your football team and them look at Nick Folk. I think they've lost confidence in Folk, and you got to tell your team with 3 games left and you're trying to get in the playoffs that we're doing everything we can. Now, also, they have the luxury, obviously, of David Beeler kicking off. So you could bring in an older kicker, a Jason Elam type that doesn't have the leg that he once did. All he has to do is make field goals from 40 yards on in. And, yeah, Nick Folk would not have been my kicker in tonight's game.
I think you might find a lot of people who would agree with you, and it's interesting, babe, with the way he has struggled lately. Nick Folk might just be on his last lifeline. Another poor performance against New Orleans could mean the end of his time in Dallas. But say what you want about Folk, he is a young man who's doing the right thing, at least in one area.
42-yard field goal by Folk. This one is away, and it is no good, and it was wide to the left the whole way.
You're losing any confidence in Nick Folk, Coach, after this continued problem?
Well, certainly.
Well, the way I performed, I agree.
Nick Folk can't really do anything but agree. He's missed 6 of his last 10 field goal attempts, a total of 9 this year, more than his previous 2 seasons combined. He says hip surgery in May threw his schedule off.
I take usually 5 months to prepare for the season and to start kicking. I didn't get to start kicking until we started training camp, so middle of July.
Kicking is as much a mental game as it is physical, but Folk maintains he's not thinking about the misses.
Everyone asks, what are you thinking out there? And I say, I don't know. I just block everything out. I worry about what I need to do and go out and do what I can.
He's also doing everything he can in another arena.
What does that say?
Folk is the national spokesperson for the Children's Tumor Foundation, which helps raise funds and awareness for neurofibromatosis, or NF.
It's where you get tumors all over your nerve endings.
Oh, wow. Folk recently met with 3-year-old Kylie, who lost one of her eyes because of NF. You can't tell now. She's a little ball of energy. And proved that she can kick better than just about anyone.
She's kind of beating me in football, but we're having a good time. Here, how about we put him right there?
Folk got involved with the organization because his 8-year-old cousin Blake also has NF. He had brain tumors and has had multiple surgeries to fix them.
My little cousin is just like Kylie, very energetic. He's got so much energy, wants to do so much with his life, and for me to see that, it just pushes me even more.
It's moments like this, or thoughts of his cousin Blake, that keep Nick Folk focused and inspired during what's been one of his biggest professional challenges.
Someone asked me the other day, said, is this the worst thing you've gone through? I said, no. I mean, there's a lot worse things in life that can happen other than missing a kick here or there. So I take that to heart, and I wear a bracelet. I'd take it off for practice, but a Children's Tumor Foundation bracelet for my little cousin. And anytime I'm in a rough situation, I just look down to that and think of him.
He is trying to do some good. He's donating $25 for every point he makes this season, and he has a pretty good sense of humor about it, Randy. He's like, you know, I could have donated a lot more money had I made a few kicks. Well, obviously the Cowboys opened up the kicking competition, if you will, this week. You know, let David Beeler sort of push him a little bit. Folks said it was a good thing. He felt that Beeler did push him. Says he feels good about going into this week. I asked Babe the same thing. What would you have done with Nick Folk had you been in charge, considering the way he struggled?
Well, as much as he's hurt that football team missing field goals, Gina, it would have been tough to keep him around. I'd have had to find somebody that I could count on to make a 30, 35-yard field goal consistently. But, you know, hey, these guys fight their heads, and he's fighting his head. He's a kicker. Kickers aren't real football players anyway. So, you know, we'll see what this guy does. You know, I mean, he's there. Hopefully all we can do is root for him. Hope he makes the next field goal.
That's all I wanted to get out of you. You know, the player's mindset on kickers, you know. The player's
They're not real football players. But unfortunately, they're an intricate part of your football team. They can get you beat real quick.
Yeah, you definitely have to depend on him. But he says he feels good. We'll see, obviously, tonight. Good. Okay, when our special hour-long edition of Cowboys Game Day continues on TXA21, the Cowboys are testing even the most faithful of their fans. Why do the players and those fans still believe this team can have success in January and beyond? Time for our Chevy players to watch tonight, and the honor goes to cornerbacks Mike Jenkins and Terrence Newman. The corners should get quite a workout tonight, facing the league's third-ranked passing offense. Mike Jenkins has broken up 18 passes this season and has a team-high 4 interceptions, while Terrence Newman broken up 17 passes this year and has a pair of INTs. And as we're back here in the TXA21 studios, welcoming Bill Jones, sort of jumping on with us, while a lot of people are jumping off the Cowboys bandwagon after they've lost 2 straight games.
There's a lot of people joining us right now because they were watching CBS11 just a moment ago, and I made sure to tell everybody to come over here, and so we welcome you back here after watching CBS11. You know, just 3 weeks ago, the Cowboys were sitting there at 8-3, sitting all alone in first place in the NFC East. But what a difference the month of December makes. Still, we found fans who are keeping the faith just like the players are.
We're winners. We come to win every week. And there's just 1 or 2 plays, man. I know that they have the heart to go out there and beat the Saints.
Win or lose, diehard Cowboy fans have been showing up every Monday night this season at the House of Blues. Even weeks like this one, when everyone's singing the blues.
I come from a college, you know, where no one ever believed in us. You know, everyone always said we wouldn't win when it comes to a big game, so I'm kind of used to it.
I still believe it's going to happen. I know right now it sounds like cliche because, you know, it's cool. What's been going on in the past and everything like that. I honestly believe, you know, it's going to turn around.
This week at the taping of TXA21's Inside the Huddle, Ratliff and Skandrick took turns taking swipes at media coverage of the Cowboys.
You can say what you want about me in the paper, but, you know, my play is going to speak on the field. So that's what got me here, not talking to the media.
How about you, Orlando?
I could see if we had guys showing up late to meetings, not playing hard. But, I mean, the mistakes that we're making is not because we're not playing hard. I mean, no, they're not acceptable by any stretch. You know, we need to play better. We need to win games. We need to find a way to win games, bottom line.
But Skandrick was most interested in trying to figure out how to beat the Saints.
They're high-powered, you know. They can put up some points. They got one of the best quarterbacks in the game. They got 3 dynamic running backs in Pierre Thomas, Mike Bell, and Reggie Bush. They got 3 or 4 dynamic receivers.
And to beat guys like that, Jay Ratliff knows the Cowboys sure could use DeMarcus Ware this week.
If he doesn't play, I mean, it's completely understandable. I mean, I don't expect him to play if he was taken out in the ambulance, and, you know, he'll be playing again Saturday. We'll see.
With or without DeMarcus, the players vow to give it their all, and they know they have a faithful following who still stand behind them.
When we walked out after the game, when we walked to the parking lot, we probably had a good 5,000–6,000 people there. And I mean, what I would say to you guys is, I mean, it's obvious that you guys love us, or you wouldn't pay your money, you wouldn't come out to see us. I mean, just have some faith in us and just bear with us.
It seems like when Dallas fall down, everybody want to keep them down. But listen, I'm there to pick them up and tell them, hey, we'll do better next time. Let's go.
And by the way, you can see Inside the Huddle each Sunday morning at 11:30 here on TXA21. Like the players, those Cowboy fans are keeping the faith. Let me ask Randy White here. Randy, how tough is it for the players to keep the faith in the month of December? Probably pretty easy, isn't it?
It's not tough for the players, man. I tell you what, that last game you can't change, but you know you can do something tonight, and that's the one I'm focused on, and I'm going out there and I'm beating the Saints if I'm a player on the Dallas Cowboys football team.
And as we go back to New Orleans, let's bring Babe Laufenberg back in. And Babe, I think it's another interesting thing is when you've got a quarterback like Tony Romo, it's pretty easy for the team to continue believing in itself.
Well, interestingly enough, Bill, in the last 2 weeks, Tony Romo has had a quarterback rating over 100. They've lost both games. He's the only quarterback this season in the NFL to go over 100 in quarterback rating 2 consecutive weeks and lose both games. What that all means, I'm not quite sure, but I do know this. For Tony Romo's career to jump to the next level, he needs to win a big game that he's not supposed to win. Tonight is a big game, and I think we'd all agree that the Cowboys are not supposed to win it. Doesn't mean they can't, but they're not supposed to win. Okay, Tony Romo does enter tonight's game protecting the football. Done a great job of that. 122 straight passing attempts without throwing an interception. That spans the last 3 games. But it's not his longest stretch this season. Earlier this year, Romo had a streak of 143 attempts without an interception. Now take a look at Romo's interception percentage during his time here as the Cowboys starter. Each season, the interception percentage has decreased. That's a good thing. This year, Romo's percentage down below 2%. That's a great thing. But in the end, Romo knows in his line of work, there's only one stat that counts.
It doesn't matter. It's only about winning. You know, and if I perform poorly this week and we win, it's a lot better than performing well and losing. This position is completely judged, you know, almost solely on winning and losing. The thing I learned a while back, human nature, when you're losing, is it should be to always look and say, what am I not doing enough of? Because it's obviously got to be something, because we're losing. For us, each one of us in this locker room is taking that approach this week. You know, we're going to try and do more individually, pick it up everywhere a little bit, and when it's all said and done, hopefully that will collectively allow us to be a better unit.
And one area that would help the Cowboys offense become a better unit is in the scoring department. During the first 7 weeks of the season, the Cowboys rolled up 197 points. That's an average of over 28 a game. At the time, that ranked 6th in the NFL. Now, in the last 6 weeks, the Cowboys offense scored only 99 points. That is an average of 16.5 a game. The Cowboys will need to score plenty tonight, and offensive coordinator Jason Garrett recognizes what's causing the recent struggles.
You know, there have been some critical errors that we've made at certain times to put us in some bad down and distance situations in the red zone. And, you know, the biggest thing, we just got to keep giving ourselves chances. We have the guys to do it. You know, I think as we continue to go, if you get enough at-bats, you know, we're going to get some hits and score some points.
All right, and they'll need to score a lot of points tonight. New Orleans Saints, the highest scoring offense in the NFL. Matter of fact, a record-setting offense. All right. We heard from Jason Garrett here. I know he's come under a lot of criticism. You know I like him. I know you don't. I very much liken him. I played for Bill Walsh my freshman year at Stanford. Bill Walsh was passed over by the Cincinnati Bengals, your Cincinnati Bengals, for Tiger Johnson. I know we haven't heard of Tiger Johnson. I see Jason Garrett. I don't want to compare him to Bill Walsh, but I see him as that kind of guy, a young, bright mind who may get passed over, who is going to wreak havoc, I think, in the NFL one day. You see it differently.
No, I don't disagree. And by the way, you asked Jerry Jones tonight, that's coming up. It's coming up. Has Jason Garrett's star fallen? Can't wait to hear that. No, I think he's a good coach. I think that he's a young coordinator who's figuring stuff out. And with this offense this year, it's been very frustrating because they move the ball. They're having trouble scoring, but my biggest complaint with Jason is I don't think he has found that one thing that is the Cowboys' identity offensively. Against a good team, when you have to do it, do it. And, you know,
do they have that one player that they can do it with?
Well, we've been told that they do. I mean, Romo's supposed to be this, Barber's supposed to be that. You know, Barber can't score from the 1, 5 straight carries, or for the 4 and then the 1 for 3 carries. But so it's the identity thing that, and, you know, and Jason would probably say that he's figuring that out and trying, and but that would be my complaint against him. And I do like Jason Garrett, so you stop that.
And interestingly enough, Sean Payton, the head coach of the New Orleans Saints and the Saints play caller, the offensive mastermind,
the genius.
He was relieved of his play calling duties by Jim Fossil with the Giants in 2002. I think they'd like a do-over on that one.
It's tough in this league, babe. It's tough.
It is tough, but let's look at this. Here's the bottom line. Is this team good enough, Steve? Because when you look at the numbers against teams with losing records, the Cowboys are 7-0 against teams with winning records. They're 1-5. I'll go back 2 years now. Losing records 12-1. Playing teams with winning records, they're 4-10.
Wow.
Do they have the talent to beat the good teams?
Did you come up with that stat?
Well,
that's good.
With a little help from my friends.
Hey, this is the third straight week that the Cowboys have had the same message. If you hear them in the locker room, we're going to lay it on the line this week, and we're going to find out what we're made of. Third straight week they've said that. Giants, then San Diego, now New Orleans. We know what they're made of. They try. They don't quit. They give all the effort. So why can't they win these games against good teams? And that may be the answer to the question you just asked. Are they good enough to do it?
And I think that's the question Jerry Jones is going to have to ask himself at the end of this season. Am I not supplying our head coaches with the personnel to win games, or are our head coaches not maximizing?
I'll take that one.
Our personnel's
I'll take
ability.
choice two.
Well, we'll find out what Jerry says. Jerry gets a deciding vote. All right, our special hour-long edition of Cowboys Game Day continues here on TXA21, live from New Orleans, where we are drawing closer to the start of tonight's Cowboys showdown against the undefeated New Orleans Saints. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back on our Cowboys Game Day show live from New Orleans and Louisiana Superdome. The New Orleans Saints hoping to stay undefeated tonight. Dallas Cowboys are, of course, hoping otherwise. All right, quick reset for you here. DeMarcus Ware will play tonight. Heard that from Jerry Jones a short time ago. Also had an interview with Jerry Jones coming up here. He's going to discuss Wade Phillips' job status, so we invite you to stick around for that. And Jerry Steve talking to Jerry, about 45 minutes ago. He's usually pretty calm before these games, a lot more calm than I'd be if I owned this football team. He was nervous tonight. He said he hadn't eaten all day.
I'm telling you, the train's coming. They're on that track. Somebody's got to do something. Maybe Romo will be the guy to do it tonight, or Ware, or somebody, but somebody's got to do something. But I know one guy who's not nervous.
Who's that?
Well, he's Keith Brooking. He's not nervous. Now, I don't know if you guys followed this, but here's the way it went down. Cowboys emotional leader Keith Brooking yells at a certain big mouth reporter in defense of his coach. It was the internet sensation for a day or two last week. Well, that big mouth reporter thought it would be a good idea to revisit with Brooking again this week, to once again do the best we can to find out the pulse of this team.
We're not talking about 2 years ago. We're not talking about last year.
No, you have to.
We're talking about this, huh?
You have to. See,
bull crap. We don't. Why aren't we talking about 2 years ago?
Is this round two? Steve against Keith, or
man.
See, people think that
after a tough loss. I mean, is he supposed to call us losers?
Obviously, I have no problem with it. You know that, but I mean, shoot, you gotta, you gotta stand for something, and you'll fall for anything. And I mean, obviously, I didn't agree with what you said, and I mean, maybe I took it wrong. I don't know, but I mean, it is what it is, and I'm past that now.
Jerry had a message to you guys in the locker room after the loss to San Diego.
About 10 years before I bought the Cowboys, I was renting a car at Love Field, and they cut my credit cards up when I handed them a card to rent a car. And so I know what hard times are like in Dallas, and I know you can overcome them, and we can overcome it.
How did you receive a message like that when the owner is telling you about hard times? What's your mind thinking when you hear that from him?
I just think, adversity doesn't build character, it reveals it. And I think if, when you're faced with tough times, you really find out what men are about. We're going to find out what this team's about.
He's convinced you guys are tough enough. You players are a tough enough group. Why do you agree with him?
Well, I think just from, you look back earlier in the season that obviously, we didn't start out like we wanted to. We lose our opener here against New York. We go to Kansas City and against a team that haven't played real well at the beginning of the year, and we're going through a lot of problems and going to overtime and just squeeze one out and barely win. And there are a lot of people wanting to fire a coach at that time and, point fingers at us and say we weren't going to win 8 games, and former players coming out and, talking bad about us.
You heard all that.
Yeah, the whole works. So, I mean, we fall through that, you know. We put ourselves in a position to be where we're at right now. So I know we're made of some good stuff. For whatever reason, you know, we haven't played the last 2 weeks like we should play. You know, you turn on the film, you watch the film. I know football, and teams aren't lining up and kicking our butts. I mean, we are kicking their butt. I can guarantee you, we get in the tournament, there are going to be a lot of teams that do not want to face the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. I mean, I believe with all my heart because I know how good we are. I know how good we can be.
Defense, man, what kind of chore you got against these Saints? Where do you start with this team in terms of stopping them?
You know, against a team like this, you got to take away their heart. You know, you got to do that in the beginning of the game. Defensively, that's the unit to take away their heart and set the tone for our football team and go into a hostile environment and get a win. And nobody's giving us a chance, you know, and that's fine with me. Bring it on, you know. There's a lot of fight in this dog. I have a lot left in me, and I believe in what we're doing. I believe in my teammates. I believe in the guys around me, and I can't wait to get out there and play with them.
He's got a lot of fight left in that dog. He's the one guy, Randy White, on this team that reminds me of you, and that's Keith Brooking. He sounds like you. He talks like you. But once again, we heard that phrase, they're going to find out what they're made of. Well, sometimes you got to be careful what you wish for, Randy, because so far in these two big games, they're finding out what they're made of. They got another shot tonight.
Well, they do, Steve, and I tell you what, if every guy on that football team had the same attitude as Brooking did, I think they'd have a great shot of winning this football game tonight. So maybe they'll listen to this guy and get some of his momentum and some of the energy he's brought to this football team. To me, he's been the most valuable player on this football team all year long. He's done more to motivate this team than anybody that's been there in recent history. So watch this guy. I mean, if they follow him, hey, we could get a victory tonight.
Where do you guys think this team would be, or this defense in particular would be, without Brooking, Steve?
I'm sorry, Gina, ask that again.
Where do you think this defense would be without Keith Brooking?
What would it be without him?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I agree with Randy. What Keith Brooking brings him, he's playing like a kid again. He used to do that when he was going to Pro Bowls in Atlanta, and he admits, it's actually something his wife told me when we were chatting, was that the last few years in Atlanta, he didn't have that. Now he's in Dallas, and he's playing like that youngster again that he used to play like, and you would hope that that's infectious on a defense. I think Jay Ratliff brings that to the defense as well. But you know, again, we've been discussing it here. All that's about effort, all that's about enthusiasm, but is it about talent? Is it about being good enough to stop San Diego when you need to, or the Giants, or New Orleans tonight? That's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, you got to see it manifest itself on the field, and quite frankly, we haven't seen too much of that this season. When this special hour-long edition of Cowboys Game Day continues on TXA21, Babe asks Cowboys owner Jerry Jones the million-dollar questions. Stick around. It's coming up next. Toyota presents the On the Road Report. This year, the Saints and Colts become only the 7th teams to start a season with a perfect 13-0 record. The Miami Dolphins are the only one of the previous 5 teams to go on and win the NFL championship with a perfect record. The Colts improved to 14-0 on Thursday. The Saints, of course, will try and keep pace with Indy tonight and keep their hopes of a perfect season alive. The Cowboys have ended a perfect season before. Remember, they beat the then unbeaten Colts late in the season in 2006. That was a highlight for Cowboys owner Jerry Jones in a decade that hasn't had too many of them, quite frankly. Babe Laufenberg caught up with the Cowboys owner just a few moments ago to get his thoughts on tonight's game and where this team stands with just 3 weeks left in the season.
This town is excited, very excited for this football game. What's Jerry Jones' level of excitement?
Well, I'm so nervous I couldn't eat, but this is exciting because we have a huge numbers of Cowboy fans in this area, but just as important, when the Saints fans aren't Saints fans, so often than not, they're Cowboy fans in any ball game. So it feels like home down here. I got to play in 2 Sugar Bowls here. And I spent a lot of my life in and around the Sugar Bowl thing, and of course was here to watch Cowboys play Denver in the Super Bowl, so I've got a good feeling about competition in New Orleans.
You've made it clear that Wade Phillips basically needs to finish strong, and by extension, of course, his football team in December. But what's going to be good enough? Is it making the playoffs? Is it winning a playoff game? Is it getting to the NFC Championship game? So could you clarify?
Well, I don't know that I've been clear about finishing strong. What I will say is that it's important, and what I did say, to everybody, starting with me, but with Wade and with everybody on this team, that we have a good finish.
Jason Garrett's come under some criticism. His offense is in the top 5 of the league, so that remains to be seen as to why all that criticism is being heaped on him. But have you lost any confidence in him?
No. As a matter of fact, Jason being the young coach that he is, and I'm reminded of that, and of course knew that when he became the coordinator. This is a part of the process, and the criticism is part of the process. How would you like to have someone as a head coach that had never gotten any criticism? You might not know what you were dealing with.
So you don't think it's a bad thing that he's getting a few arrows slung at him?
Not at all, no. You know, this game, as you well know, Babe, but the parts of the Cowboys, the NFL, if you can't handle the heat, you sure can't be a player.
Do you still see him as a head coach in this league and as a head coach for the Dallas Cowboys maybe
Yes,
at one point?
Yes, I do. And I think it's probably a misnomer to say, well, at one time. I think that has everything to do with the fact that our team hadn't played the last 2 games as well as we'd like to. What if we came in here tonight and took them to the house and then came on and had a great December and we're sitting here in the playoffs? All of a sudden, his star's looking brighter, and that's it. That's the way it is. I understand that, and that goes for a lot of people on this team.
Jerry Jones, the eternal optimist. He certainly is, but he has to be. He has to be. And he said on a radio show earlier in the week, though, that the outcome of these games, meaning these final 3 games, will definitely weigh in on these decisions with what he does moving forward with this coaching staff. Last year, he stressed how important it was to have consistency. This year, he's sort of wavering on that a little bit. How much pressure are these coaches feeling, Randy?
I think if I'm a coach, I'm not thinking about getting fired at this point of the season. I'm not listening to the media. I'm aware of it, but that's not what I'm focused on. I can't control any of that. What I can control is getting this football team ready to play a football game and getting it in a position where they can go out there and perform and win. And if they do that, everything else kind of takes care of itself. So, yeah, they're under pressure, but they'd be under pressure irregardless if Jerry said they're staying no matter what happens for the rest of the year. They're under pressure because they're competitors. They don't want to lose. They don't like the situation that they're in right now. Nobody does. None of the players do. The Cowboy fans don't. But, you know, as a player, they're a player and the coaching staff. They're the only ones who are going to get them out of this. Nobody's going to help you. The media is going to keep jumping on you till you get out of the hole. And they get out of the hole, then things will change. So that's what they're thinking about.
I'm telling you, they need to put you in those locker rooms before the games, Randy. That's what they need to do. Okay, when the Cowboys take the field against New Orleans, how's linebacker DeMarcus Ware going to look in uniform? We'll tell you an update on his status when this special hour-long edition of Cowboys Game Day continues on TXA21. Here are your 4 keys to the game. The Saints offense is the best in the league, and they average almost 38 points a game at home. New Orleans is a fast team, and the Cowboys defense needs to adjust to the speed of the Saints offense. One way to do that, take the air out of Saints quarterback Drew Brees, and the best way to do that is to keep the ball out of his hands. That's where the Cowboys' ground game becomes so important tonight. Control the clock by controlling the ball and keep the Saints offense off the field. Well, it's a little bit of good news because linebacker DeMarcus Ware is active and is expected to play tonight against New Orleans. He was limited in practice this week after being carted off the field on a stretcher last Sunday after colliding with a San Diego Chargers player. And as we send it back to Steve Dennis to get his final thoughts on tonight's game, Steve, I would bet that when you're going against the league's best offense, you would want one of your best defensive players out there on the field. Any chance New Orleans comes away, or the Cowboys come away with the win tonight?
Well, I mean, my final thought would be, what if they do? What if the Cowboys do win this game? Most people don't expect them to. Remember, the train coming, they're on the track. it points to a New Orleans win. But if the Cowboys can get this win today, think about how that may define their season this year in terms of what they hope is in front of them. Get this win tonight, changes everything for the Cowboys going forward. That's my final positive thought on this one tonight.
Is that your Christmas gift to all the Cowboys fans, Steve? Yeah. Tell us what you think, Randy. What do you think?
I think the Cowboys have a chance to win this game. I think the defense is going to have to go out there. They're going to have to put pressure on Breeze. They're going to have to disrupt his timing, throw him off his game. If they can do that, they'll have a chance of winning this football game. On offense, you know, Tony Romo, he's had some great stats the last couple of weeks, but I think this week, you know, he's got to take some chances. Now, this is a game just depending on how the game goes, but, you know, you got to get the ball downfield and make some plays. So we'll see how it goes. Cowboys
okay,
win.
Cowboys and Saints coming up next. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be right back here after the game.